Like I said to everyone, thank you for taking the time and coming for this presentation. A little bit about me. I am a web developer in a company called Tectonic Group in Boulder. And before that, I did 8 years of graphic design. And I got into web development because one of the jobs I had, I criticized one of the HTML emails they had. And unfortunately, I stepped on the toes of the developer that did it, that had some design ideas, and he said, well, you don't like it, you make one. So I decided to learn HTML and CSS by myself. And then I went a little crazy trying to make the HTML email work with Outlook. Almost. Well, I started going to meetups like this, and people were like very encouraging, and that's something I really like about the dev community, is that they try to bring people out. Well, that's enough about me, and let's go to the topic. Today I'll be talking about visual communication with Angular and D3. So the first thing that you, like everyone should ask, why? Why should you care about visual communication? Well, a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, right? That's what everybody says. So when I present you something like this, everybody understands that you have to be careful because the words with. So iconography is amazing. You don't need words, but sometimes you need to have some support. So caution, wait for it. So let's take this to our realm. Like we have this application, and we're going to present this table. It's pretty straightforward. It's weekly sales going from Monday to Sunday. But I think this is a little more eye-catching. The information is there. We can have like a tooltip saying which one of the products was the one that actually was best sell, and color-coded, giving like a pink, saying that it was the biggest, and a blue for the lowest. And so, what is visual communication? It's a way to graphically represent information to efficiently and effectively create meaning. And it uses limited text to explicate the meaning. So what are ways to do visual communication? Static, usually using just plain infographics, and with motion graphics, which is nice. And also we can have users in a way to enter data and display it to them. So how are we going to achieve this? Well, we're going to get it using Angular and D3. Right? So D3 stands for data-driven documents. And let me show you a couple of examples. So here we have kind of the same basic example where I had a bar chart representing the weekly sales. And let me show you the code for this. I'm going to show you first something with vanilla.js and just D3, and then I'll move on to Angular. So here we have our data set, just a simple JSON file. And if we look at the HTML, we only have weekly sales and div. So the first thing that I'm doing is defining the size of my SVG. Sorry, D3 works with SVGs, stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. So it means that it doesn't matter if it expands exponentially or you reduce it to the minimum size, you're not going to lose quality because they're vector-based. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be targeting the body of the application, and then I'm going to append an SVG, giving it attributes of height and width and a little padding. And now I'm using the D3 JSON method that is going to allow me to connect with the JSON data. Now, before I explain this, I can show you this method right here, SVG select all, rectangles. So I'm going to be creating rectangles, but even though they're not there, this is what enter will do for me. So if I come back to the presentation. So let's picture this. So we have an array, we have a data set of an array, And let's say we have these 4 elements in the DOM represented over here. And what enter is going to do is going to say, when I have a new element coming into the DOM, is gonna update it. It's kind of like a life cycle hook that D3 can give you. There's the enter, update, and exit. So a way to put it is, let's say you had a party at your house and you invited 4 friends. And you had set them up chairs, you had to set them up food, drinks, and everything. But then, there's always someone that comes in unexpected. And you don't want to be a jerk. So you say, okay, sure, you can come into my party, but give me a second. I'm going to prepare everything for you to be comfortable because you want to be a great host, right? So that's what enter is going to do for you. And then before I push that data set into the DOM, I'm going to be creating this rectangle, and then I'm going to start passing the data. So I'm going to be giving you a position in X. What this means, I'm going to be grabbing the index of the array, taking the width that I defined over here, and I'm going to be dividing it by the length of my array. The second step I need to do is, this is going to distribute it horizontally. But when I grab Y, I need to start calculating the size of my of the data. So in this case, I'm going to be grabbing height, but because this renders from top to bottom, because that's how it reads, 0, 0, and a coordinate would be from top to bottom. So what you're going to do is kind of invert the value so it goes from the bottom up. And now I am going to explain why we have scalings. So in scales, let's say that we have sales of 100 units, 200 units, 300 units, and 400 units. And we can represent that in just 500 pixels. And that wouldn't take the whole real estate of your screen. But what happens if we have an overachiever and the next day they sell over 4 million? So this will definitely go out of your viewport. So scale, what it's going to do, using 2 methods, input domain and range, is going to kind of normalize the data. So here we have the domain of all the sales, like 100, 300, 500, and we're going to represent that or match that to a range that we're going to give it. So 10, 50, and 100. When we come to our code and I start creating this scales, I'll be given my domain is going to go from 0 to max, and I'm defining a max value using D3's max method. This is going to return the top sale of my data, and min, which I have over here, is going to return the minimum. So by this, I'm giving it the domain from 0 to, let's say, 4 million. And then I'm going to scale, and the range that I'm going to give it is going to go from 0 to the height that I define it to be 300. Are there any questions so far? Okay. So the next step that I'm creating is to create the ticks. So the ticks is going to be our the lines that represent how many sales, so you can have a little more context of what's going on. From 0, if you only see from 0 to 250,000, you would like to also see intervals of 10 by 10, 50 by 50, which I'm creating over here. So, but for ticks, what I had found out is what I found is that I needed to invert the range going from the height to 0. Because if I invert these values, I'm going to have 0 at the top. Now I'm going to use scale for X. And notice that we have 2 different kind of scales. And D3 offers like 7, if I'm not mistaken, 7 methods to scale values. Because the data for X is going to be days. So you just can't measure days in terms of like numbers. So what a scale band is going to do is take the input of days, and then I'm going to be presenting that into my range of the width. So that's how I'm creating the values from Monday to Sunday. So whenever you, depending on what you want to scale and how you want to scale, you're going to have to find the scale method that you may need. There's a scale one for square roots. There's one that just handles text, and yeah, so the D3 has a lot of has a very good documentation on how to do that. After I created my scaling, I need to create my axis. So to create my axis, I'm going to be grabbing I'm going to be using D3's axis bottom, which is the one that lets me render the axis here at the bottom, and then y-axis. Oh, sorry, and I'm passing the value that I get on X scale. And then I'm going to be using y-axis to render it on the left, but I'm going to be using the ticks because I want it to go from 0 to 250,000. And I'm defining a number of ticks. If I change this, instead of having 5, I can have 15. Is this right? Oh. Sorry, I think that's not. Oh, sorry, I don't know why it's working. And finally, I can give you the, I can show you why I created, how I created how I colored my charts, because by default, this will come black. So using, again, ID cells and finding the maximum values, I'm giving the maximum value to be a color of pink, the minimum a color of blue, and the rest a color of black. Now, I want to take this and I'm going to show you pretty much the same graph, but I created with Angular. So as you can see over here, I only have a template that has a div with an ID of bar chart. I declared a couple of properties, and I have to create kind of like a host using the native, using element ref and setting up a native element. So I created a couple of methods over here. The first one is going to be setup, which is going to be, I'm creating this margin, I'm using the margin property that I created. And given the range and domain right from the beginning, then I'll be creating the SVG, which is going to be rendering just the SVG part, the dimensions of the SVG, not the graph. And I'll be drawing the x-axis with the y-axis, just like I was doing in the other example, but just a little more modularized. And finally, I'm getting the get maximum value, just using D3. And then I'm populating the data that I have, passing it similarly like I've been doing it on just the vanilla JS application. And as you can see, it renders just the way we want. But we have D3 touching the DOM for you because it's behaving kind of like jQuery. You don't necessarily want that in an Angular application. So I found amazing Angular library called Swingline, and I can give you a demo or something real quick. Just have to come to my HTML.
Oh no, here it is. No, I just have to bring in the module, IndexCharts module, and here. Oh. There you go. Yeah, magic. So as you can see, I didn't have to do anything that I did on this component over here. I just needed to bring in the chart that I wanted to use and pass in the results. Now I want also to give it more context. So let's create this legend. It's going to be of type boolean. Let's put it to true. So we have columns that are just giving you names of countries with values. So we need a little more context in this. So now we're going to bring in another, I want to bring x-axis. And as well. So now we're going to bring in y-axis. So there you go. So it's a lot simpler to build data visualization with this library called IndexCharts, and here is the documentation for this, and they have examples online, and even further, they have a very good demo. So they're building their they're building their graphs just the way that I did. So they're taking advantage of creating components and handling SVG and animations all in Angular, but they're taking the math out of D3. So as you can see, it is just as simple as bringing in the library, passing the data, and adding a couple of properties into your component, and then you can display very sophisticated graphs. And they're highly customizable. So, another great thing is that they can be resizable. So, where's this? Sorry. Oh, dimensions. So let's say we want to have this display at 900 by 400 dimensions to grow. So I've been creating a couple of apps at work, and I don't want us to integrate this into the workflow when we start creating dashboards and applications like that, and I think I'm getting enough traction. It comes with defined colors, but if you want, you can create your own. You just have to pass an array. And it has all sorts of graph representations. So you could have the pie chart. You can have just a regular pie chart, and like you can see over here, you don't see a lot of difference between each slice of the pie. So what we can do is explode each slice, and that's going to be even better for your presentation. You don't like the pie chart, you can make it a donut. So everything that you want to change is going to be able to be changed from the component itself. Now, they also give you the ability to create your own charts, combine them. So that's why we have this combo chart over here, where you have the ability to combine bars with lines. And if I can open the code over here. So this obviously you have to work with D3 and create your own charts, but it's not as difficult. You're gonna be creating your component, passing the values, and then you have to create the SVG part and target the G that stands for grouping. And here's where you change, and here's where you do all. You will be doing the math for everything that is going to be changing in your custom chart. But I think they have a lot of things covered. But if you're really interested, you can come in and create those components yourself. And I can show you a little app that I created using connecting to the movie database, and I'll just be passing a movie, and what is going to be presented is going to be by its popularity, and what the movie database popularity criteria means is the number of votes per day, the numbers of votes how many people have been looking for this movie, if it's being favorite or watch list. So that's the criteria that is going to be created when creating these bars. So let's look for a movie like my favorite, Die Hard. As you can see, it has a popularity of 17. It's not. It is not probably as popular if we compare this to the Avengers. And now you can see this, everything that I explained about enter, text, scaling, everything is being handled directly from these components. The only thing that I did was to set up a view that takes an array. And I'm just showing my axis, all agent, and specifying, giving it a title to my x-axis and my y-axis. So I just can keep adding movies. Sad. No, at least make the sign competition. Oh, it also comes with tooltips for the beginning, but you can, there's also a Boolean if you want tooltips or not, but I mean, it even helps you to give more reference of what you're doing. It gives you more context. And like I was saying before, the use of data visualization is to just present graphics with just little text that will put in context. So I would love to hear questions. Yes?
On that chart you just showed, that was MGX.
Yes, this is NGX chart. Definitely. So let me show you the documentation. So let's go for a bar chart, numerical bar chart. These are all the properties, all the input properties that you're going to be passing to your component. And you also have outputs. So you can, so let's select, there's going to be a click event that's going to be taken out.
Does the library do any kind of 3D rendering?
No. I didn't see any 3D rendering of this. I think WebGL probably would be a better option for 3D rendering.
WebGL?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen crazy things done with WebGL, but it takes a lot more power. And well, with D3, like it really is your imagination is the one that puts the limit. You can create any sort of data visualization from simple bars all the way to GeoJSON to represent maps, rings, just you see stuff people come with. You can consider this kind of a 3D rendering, but it's just SVG. There's no actual depth. It's kind of like more of an illusion. WebGL would be your way to go. Awesome.
That's exactly what I wanted to do. Falling spaghetti.
Yes.
Does that handle any accessibility for people who might have
Color blindness, like color blindness and stuff like that.
or blind using a screen reader, or would you have to use like a separate table?
I'm not sure about that. What I can tell you is probably for colorblind, maybe you can change the hues of your values. Like I said, you can just change the array of colors. By default, it will be the colors that I'm showing you over here, but like I've been showing in the example, you can use their custom colors, or you can create your own and take into consideration the colors that would be better managed for them. But now about screen readers, I'm not so sure about it. Yes.
A couple of those examples you showed in the rover example, you get how does that handle?
On mobile device, I haven't tested it. So.
Good question.
Yes.
IndexCharts.
Yeah, I think it's what open. So it's, MIT? Yes.
So I noticed when you showed us a composite chart, if you had a bunch of extra properties inside of the panel, you have to define all these input parameters for it to work, or just completely
You can, so you're talking about, oh, this one. Yeah, so so you create your own inputs. So dims is not one of they call it view for the ones that they created. Yes.
Have you had any experience using it with large data sets, hundreds of thousands of pattern points or larger?
No. Well, but what this also has is a feature for real-time handling. So let's say you want to track tweets and you want to see which one is the most popular, if it's engaging enough, so you can see real-time how the data is updating. But large data sets, no, I haven't seen it, sorry. Yes?
Follow-up. I think I heard somewhere that D3, at some point, if it starts to slow down with SVG graphics, that you can actually drop down to a canvas. Is that correct?
I haven't had that problem, and
So does D3 allow you to do that, though, besides that?
I think it works exclusively with SVG.
Oh, okay.
I think you can reuse the scales though. Those will output raw numbers, but you might have to do some of the plotting yourself.
Could you open up your data.ts file just
Oh.
to see what the
Definitely.
raw structure looks like?
Yeah, from the one that I'm working with. This is the data that I showed when I opened my stacklets. I'm passing a single. It's an array, and you pass the name and the value.
So does it dedupe keys? Maybe you could just try like copying that like section and just pasting it a whole bunch to see how it handles like
See if it re-renders it.
yeah, it handles very data.
So you just want to
Yeah,
copy.
that's what I'm wondering if it dedupes the keys.
No, took it as the same.
What if you change one of the values to be the same key?
You just use the last one.
So what? No. Any more questions? Yes.
There's a lot of different chart libraries. Is there a reason you picked this one to start working with? Did you look at other ones? There's a ton of different ones.
Yeah, there are different ones, but I mainly been working with this one. they also list them in their documentation over here. Here are alternatives. Zoom in. Well, if there are any more questions, I think they're gonna. I can post my slideshow, and I have a couple of resources that have helped me a couple of things, especially understanding how scales work, and the documentation for IndexCharts. I really appreciate your time. Have a good day.